Hello and welcome to a bit of a blast from the past. This is one from the archives, and we're going to talk a bit about a trip we took 25 years ago to Australia. Now keep in mind, since this is a video from 25 years ago, it is in the 4:3 format and of low resolution. Although I have tried to upscale the video, it's just too low a resolution to give us a great result. But you should get a pretty good idea of what Australia was like 25 years ago. It was quite a trip. We started in Jackson, Mississippi, flew to Dallas, Texas, flew to LA, and then another 16 hours to Sydney, and another 1.5 hours to Melbourne. While in Australia, we stayed with my brother-in-law, Lee Guang. Here we are, both of us with a few more pounds, a little more hair, and I actually had a bit of color there. Not much, mind you, but a little bit. First stop in Melbourne, the Royal Botanical Gardens. The Royal Botanical Gardens occupy about 30 hectares or 94 acres. Now, back in the day, I don't think I paid anything to get in here, but today it's a cost of about $27 Australian. While in the gardens, you can see their most famous residents, the black swans. And for whatever reason, the eels just under the water that are their constant companions. This was a family visit, and there's my mother-in-law along with Ran, our niece. Other than the black swans and the ponds dotted about the property, there were plenty of flowers and plants populating the lush landscape. Soon after our visit to the Botanical Gardens, we made a trip outside of Melbourne to the countryside and the forest. Another trip took us to one of the most famous and iconic sites in Australia, the 12 Apostles. The 12 Apostles are these limestone cliffs jutting up out of the sea, and so named because at one time there were 12 of them. It was a bit rainy and windy on that day, but still a neat trip. And the wind died down, and I got to take my first helicopter ride. Song was a bit leery of helicopters, so it was all for me. And the ride provided a unique and interesting perspective on the 12 Apostles and the coastline of the area. The 12 Apostles are located just off the Great ocean highway facing the Southern Sea. This same trip, we stopped at Lochard Gorge, the site of a famous sea wreck and a disaster where all lives of the crew and passengers were lost on the rocks just outside Lochard Gorge. Continuing our tour on the Great Ocean Road, we made a stop at London Bridge. London Bridge is famous because in the 70s, all this used to be connected like a bridge. And in the 70s, a young couple on a dare walked out to the edge, even though they weren't supposed to, and the bridge collapsed behind them. The Australian government rescued them via helicopter and then charged them for the rescue. Next stop was Wilson's Promontory. Wilson's Promontory is a national park area set on a tiny piece of land jutting out into the Southern Ocean and about 110 miles southeast of Melbourne. It is home to many different interesting rock formations and Squeaky Beach, a beach where the sand is packed so tightly that it squeaks when you walk on it. The whole area was basically deserted when we were there 25 years ago. Today, maybe not so much, because this park has become one of the most popular in Victoria, receiving over 400,000 visitors per year. A few days later, Song and I hopped on an airplane and flew to Cairns. Cairns is a beautiful resort city with plenty to do in the northern tropics of Australia. We had a hotel right downtown Cairns and located on the coast. We took some time to explore Cairns and found it a pleasant place, catering to tourists, full of restaurants, shops, and wildlife, like this pelican standing guard over the coastal area. We arranged some tours, and the next morning we headed out to nearby Wild World. Wild World eventually became Cairns Tropical Zoo and eventually shut down entirely in 2016. Property was sold to developers who opened it again as several different attractions, including a section called Koala Gardens. Wild World was somewhat unique as you could hold a koala, something she just had to do. And when the koala was handed back to the handler, she whispered to me, "It stinks." There were plenty of other animals to see, like these wombats. Cassowary, bunch of budgies, and the crocs. There were also some monitor lizards, some agile wallabies, and literally hundreds of kangaroos. We entered the kangaroo compound with a bag of feed and proceeded to feed the little guys. And what started out as civilized, with only a few kangaroos for company, soon, as they came bounding down the hillside, we were eventually faced with literally dozens of the guys, now behaving as little thieves and pickpockets, constantly reaching their hands in my pockets and her pockets, trying to get more food. Her last parting look says it all. From Wild World, we traveled to nearby Chepakai, an Aboriginal park that also closed in 2021, a victim to the COVID pandemic.
Today we are going on foot looking for game. Blind fox, turtle, cassowary. Today we are going in the forest looking for food. Blackbird, sargat, yellow walnut.
From Chepakai, we went a little further down the road to the Sky Rail, and the Sky Rail would take us up to the village of Kuranda. Kuranda is a small village on top of a mountain, about 25 kilometers from Cairns. It is accessed either by the Sky Rail, a roadway, or the Kuranda Scenic Railway. Well, we took the cable car up and the railway down. And while we were in Cairns, we did a tour to the Great Barrier Reef. Our trip was on a Fast Cat, where we ended up on an artificial island near Agincourt Reef. Much of what you're seeing here is not my video, but was a video sold to us by the tour company. There was plenty to do once we reached the artificial island, including snorkeling and a trip in a semi-submersible or a quasi-submarine. But I was there for only one real thing, and that was to dive on the Great Barrier Reef. This would be my first scuba dive, and after some instruction and passing a test, myself and a few of our intrepid travelers stepped into the undersea world, where we saw Nemo. And we're constantly surrounded by these blue fusiliers. There was plenty of other wildlife, including these coral polyps. Interesting creatures that lived on the coral reef, there one moment and gone the next. We saw more clownfish, but not Nemo this time. A sea cucumber even got to hold one. A black-spotted puffer, also called a dog-faced puffer. A brown marbled giant grouper. The Moorish idolfish. And no, I don't know why they're called that. This beautiful clown triggerfish, more of those crazy polyps, and a stingray gliding along the ocean bottom. This unique and wonderful cuttlefish looking for all the world like a spaceship floating in the void. A giant clam. And the tiniest of shrimp. A humphead Rossi. Dreaded scorpionfish. And my favorite, the beautiful Spanish dancer. Well, that was it for my dive on the Great Barrier Reef and the end of our trip to Cairns. We flew back to Melbourne, and then a day or so later we left, saying goodbye to Melbourne, Santa, and his giant elf. Well, I hope you enjoyed this blast from the past and our 1999 trip to Australia. Please like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell to be kept up to date with new videos as they drop. Check out my website at tomsmultiinterest.com and stay tuned for more from the archives and more travel coming soon. Your comments and suggestions are always welcome. And check out some of our other content, travel vlogs, and reviews. And as always, safe and happy travels from T's Cruise and Travel Muse.